What is your emergency?
I just got home. My back door is kicked in, and my girl ain't answering the phone.
Okay, what's your name?
My name's Christopher Jackson. My son's inside with her and everything. I'm about to go in and see what the is going on.
When officers arrived on scene, they saw Christopher Jackson standing in the driveway. He was upset, very anxious.
Chris stated that his fiancée, Angela, was inside the house, and also their young son, he believed was still in the house.
You could just see the look on Chris's face that he knew something was wrong and he was fearing the worst.
The officers made their way into a living room area. They did not notice anything that would be considered out of the ordinary.
They went down the hallway where they found 2 bedrooms. One was locked. They searched the other room across the hall, and that's where they found the young child inside of his crib. He appeared to have been sleeping, wasn't harmed, seemed in good condition. One of the officers picked up the child and took him outside and brought him to his father.
After that was completed is when we prepared to enter through the locked door. I stood next to the door while another officer kicked the door open.
They could see a large bed, and as you walked in, you could immediately see that there was blood on the bed.
As I turned the corner between the bed and the wall, I saw a younger white female laying on the floor. She was laying on her back, appeared to be wearing sleeping clothes, covered in blood.
The victim was Angela Wilder, and that she was in fact deceased.
Where do you work at?
Walmart.
Walmart? Okay. What do you do at Walmart?
Stock.
Okay. So walk me through what happened this morning.
I always call her on break,
Okay.
just to see how she's doing, just to talk to her. Because I work nights.
What time's break?
Break is 5.
Did you call her at 5?
Yeah,
Okay. And how did that call go?
it did. I figured, okay, she's just tired. But she always picks up whenever I call her.
What time does she usually pick you up from work?
She's usually there about 7, and she's not out there this morning. So I call a taxi, I get to the house, so I walk around back, and the door is open. And something in my stomach just felt wrong.
We contacted his employer. We were able to get the video of all the cameras in the business. And we were able to confirm that Chris never left his job that night. My initial gut feeling at that point was that he probably was not the one who murdered Angela.
So last time you were in the house was when you left for work last night?
Yes, ma'am.
Who would harm Angela if that's the case?
Richie.
Chris told us that Richie Wilder was Angela Wilder's ex-husband. They also shared a biological child together, as well as Angela's firstborn child was adopted by Richie while they were married, and they shared custody of the children.
What happened to your face? You got a scratch in your face.
That's from a kid.
Well, the first things everybody noticed was he had a small scratch under one of his eyes, which appeared to be pretty fresh, which kind of hyped up everybody's senses right away.
That happened yesterday.
And tell me about the scenario of what you guys were doing when that happened.
I could see his brain working when I asked him about the scratch. You could tell that he's uncomfortable explaining this, and he keeps falling back on a memory, I believe, of him wrestling with his son. And that was a huge red flag for us.
Okay. Did you work last night?
From 7 to 11, yes, ma'am.
And you were at Trinity that whole time.
Yes, sir.
Where'd you go after you left work?
Straight home.
Can anybody tell us what time you got home?
Cindy?
Cindy can? Okay. Did you ever leave to go anywhere in the middle of the night?
No,
Have you ever been inside her house?
no, sir.
Have you ever made statements to Angela about taking the kids away from her?
What did that cost between the two of you then? Did you hurt her?
No,
Did you kill her?
no.
No?
No.
She confirmed that, Richie came right home from work. She claimed that she woke up in the middle of the night. He was still in bed beside her. He was there all night. We suspected that she might have been covering for Richie, but she didn't seem all that concerned that Angela was dead and that she'd been murdered. It was just strange.
When the crime scene team processed the Honda Pilot, one of the crime scene officers located a small dot on the passenger door. It was dark brown in color and smaller than a pencil eraser.
It came back as human blood. So we sent the blood in for DNA testing.
At that point, it becomes a waiting game.
Richie worked in a local hospital, and they found out rather quickly that Richie was very popular with some of the female coworkers.
Richie was having affairs with different women throughout the hospital. He really wasn't the greatest guy when it came to how he would treat women, but that doesn't help us build our case against him as a murderer. About a month after the murder, we did receive a call from the North Dakota State Crime Lab. They told us that the swab taken from the Honda Pilot was Angela Wilder's blood.
That was the breaking moment in this case. Took him to the police department, and Richie lawyered up. He wasn't going to talk to us anymore.
The Minot Police Department received a call in March of 2017 from a Matt Walters.
He'd said that he has possible information about the murder of Angela Wilder.
We called him just to see if this was really true.
She heavily insinuated through Facebook messages that she was involved in the murder that her husband committed.
Would you be able to send me all those messages?
Yeah, I can screenshot them and send them to you. Immediately after that, she says, it wasn't supposed to be a knife, and you were the only person I have said anything to. That one really raised the hair on the back of my neck.
We knew that this was our chance to hold her responsible for the role that she played.
I don't know. I'm just mad all the time, and I don't know why.
About what?
I don't know. That's the problem.
Are you mad at your husband?
No, like I'm proud of him. I'm just pissed that he got caught and that he got sloppy and impatient, and I thought we were like in the clear. Like
Jesus.
I helped him. Like I would leave, like when he worked nights, I would leave the house at like midnight and like sit outside her house in my vehicle seeing who came into the house. Yeah, we had this planned out, and he it up.
I mean, how did he like?
Because he didn't clean the car good enough. One spot of blood in my car. He just has like so much anger towards her. That's why he couldn't just do one jab to the jugular and get out. No, he like went psycho on her.
It was ultimate justice. It's kind of karma coming back and biting her. She was 100% involved in this murder, and she fortunately spilled it all to the wrong person.
Cynthia Wilder was sentenced today in a hearing where the judge went well beyond the recommendations of both the defense and prosecution.
You were the one person who could have intervened. You were the one person who could have spared Angela Wilder's life. You chose not to do so.
The life in prison sentence with no parole is the exact same sentence that her husband Richie Wilder is now serving for killing Angela Wilder.
It was an awesome feeling knowing that we were going to get further justice for Angela Wilder and put behind bars everybody who's responsible for her not being here today.